trying this again. So, Allison McDowell. I am on the shores of Onondaga Lake in upstate New York, and we just finished yesterday. We had an amazing gathering where we were talking about a lot of the research that I have done with some other colleagues, Dr. Tom Cowan, and Dr. Andrew Kaufman, and my focus was a lot on graphene and nanotech, and so we were exploring new territory. But since I made this trip up, I wanted to be sure to actually spend some time to come out to this lake, because this lake is a very sacred lake to the Haudenosaunee people, and it is a site of gathering in peace for the Iroquois Confederacy. And what I've said over and over again is I feel really strongly that what is needed is a global peace movement of mothers against AI, or grandmothers, amongst others, welcoming other people as well. But I'm here, I have my sacred feminine apron on, which was from my great-grandmother and my great-aunt, with the embroidery and the greenery. And so I'm just sort of channeling my ancestors as well in trying to bring a sense of an acknowledgement of past harm and healing to this space, because Onondaga Lake was a sacred lake for the original peoples of these lands, and then was later, it became a toxic, industrial, contaminated, polluted area. And so we're here today. The other thing is that the garden where I work, actually, the people who established that garden were plant collectors, and they came up onto these lands and collected plants in this area. And I felt like that an acknowledgement of that practice, that collecting practice of beings that were not necessarily theirs to take and then export in a global plant trade, was something that needed to be addressed and acknowledged. And so I have brought some plants from that garden back here to this space on the shores of the lake as a gift towards the healing of this lake, which is a big task, but it has to start somewhere. So we are here in the spirit of that today. And the plants that I have brought 3 compass plants. Now, compass plants are actually a prairie type of plant. Sorry, there's a backing up trash truck, so that's the noise here. But the compass plants are a prairie plant, and they grow to be like as tall as a person. They can live to be over 100 years old, and they host an incredible amount of insects, including gall wasps, the fakes, right? Gall wasps and butterflies and pollinators, and they're quite impressive. And so we brought those plants, and then the other idea is that we want to create, to reset the compass, right? Like, our compass has been skewed by Western scientism, by man above nature, and that we really need to get back to a natural compass with the earth, and a reciprocal, abundant relationship to Mother Earth. So that is why we're here today. In that spirit, I'll just give you a sense of what we had intended. So we've planted the 3 compass plants already, and I'm going to read you this peacemaker story. And this is connected to the history of these lands. And then part of that is about burying weapons. So actually, the garden where I work has a very large London plane tree, and the London plane is a natural hybrid of the American sycamore and the Oriental plane that happened in Spain and was used in 18th century gardens. So this particular plant specimen dates to the 1850s. It's a very old and magnificent tree, and this tree takes care of itself by shedding its bark of pollution. And so when I was trying to think of how I wanted to do ceremony today, I thought, wow, well, I need to, what will I do? What will I, and you know, you go out into the world and the world sort of speaks back to you. And I saw piles of this bark on the ground, and I thought, okay, so I will leave some messaging of this bark, to leave messages of good intentions for healing for this lake. And again, this is what we're dealing with, is a colonial project. So the London plane seemed to be a very good focus for that. So we've left messages on the bark. So after we bury the weapons, which we've also mentioned here, we've written out on bark, we will then put these good intentions out onto the water. So I will just start now with a reading of, this is the peacemaker story. So I'm going to read this one page to you all. Okay. The peacemaker story. Long ago, the Haudenosaunee nations were at war with each other. And I'm just going to get close because the mic isn't great. A man called the peacemaker wanted to spread peace and unity throughout the Haudenosaunee territory. While on his journey, the peacemaker came to the house of an Onondaga leader named Hiawatha, more commonly known as Hiawatha. Hiawatha believed in the message of peace and wanted the Haudenosaunee people to live in a united way. An evil Onondaga leader called Tadadaho, who hated the message of peace, had killed Hiawatha's wife and daughters during these violent times. Tadadaho was feared by all. He was perceived as being so evil that his hair was comprised of writhing snakes, symbolizing his twisted mind. And I think we can imagine some equivalents for today. The peacemaker helped Hiawatha mourn his loss and ease his pain, and Hiawatha then traveled with the peacemaker to help unite the Haudenosaunee. The peacemaker used arrows to demonstrate the strength of unity. First, he took a single arrow and broke it in half, and then he took 5 arrows and tied them together, and this group of 5 arrows could not be broken. The peacemaker said, "A single arrow is weak and easily broken. A bundle of arrows tied together cannot be broken." This represents the strength of having a confederacy. It is strong and cannot be broken. The Mohawk, Oneida, Cayuga, Seneca, and Onondaga accepted the message of peace. And with the nations joined together, the peacemaker and Hiawatha sought out Tadaho, and as they approached him, he resisted their invitation to join them. The peacemaker promised him that if he accepted the message of peace, Onondaga would be the capital of the Grand Council. Tadaho finally succumbed to the message of peace, and it is said that the messengers of peace combed the snakes from his hair. The name Hiawatha means he who combs, indicating his role in convincing Tadaho to accept the great law of peace. Joined together, these 5 nations became known as the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. When peace had successfully been spread among the 5 nations, the people gathered together to celebrate. They uprooted a white pine tree and threw their weapons into the hole. They replanted the tree on top of the weapons and named it the Tree of Peace, which symbolizes the great law of peace that the Haudenosaunee came to live by. The 4 main roots of the Tree of Peace represent the 4 directions and the paths of peace that lead to the heart of the Haudenosaunee territory, where all who want to follow the great law of peace are welcome. And at the top of the Tree of Peace is an eagle, guardian of the Haudenosaunee and messenger to the Creator. And so that is the story. And so I will say we came today, so we are in a park, and the part of the park is Willow Bay, part of the park, and there are willows. This was a center of basket making. And it's a bit challenging to find a location. These plants actually need some light. And there's actually an essay by Aldo Leopold about the compass plant in the Sand Hill Diary in Iowa. And they talk about Sand Hill Almanac. Yes, Sand Hill Almanac. And he talks about a little bit of the prairie, because this is an eastern prairie plant, being tucked away in the cemetery, and the mowers couldn't get to it. And so this little bit of prairie survived, and he would visit it every year in June and July to see the compass plant come up, because it would lay down its leaves and you could orient in navigating. And then one year the fence came down and the mowers came by, and then that little bit of the prairie was gone. So we're looking today for a place in this park, and it's a park in an urban area of Syracuse, and finding a place that is not going to be overcome by the mower, right? And so we're looking along the edge of this lake, because it has been largely made no longer natural with big rock riprap that has interfered with the natural flow of the what did you say, the material?
It's like marl or clay.
Or clay that is natural. There's big stones. So we were looking among the stones to find a place to put the compass plant. And I think for many of us, that feels like what it's like, is that life feels very challenging. And so where do we find the bits of soil that have enough room to grow between the riprap, right? Between the granite boulders. But we did find these places, and we found a place with a fair bit of sun, which these plants need. And we were sort of standing here admiring this little bit of this bay. And we looked up, and an osprey came, and an osprey flew in, and it greeted us, and it flew over to one of the cottonwood trees, and it paused, and then it did a couple of loops, and then it flew back, and it talked to us a little bit. And we thought, oh, that's a wonderful sign. That's a wonderful sign. So we went back, and we'd scoped out the place. We got the rest of the plants and our materials, and we were coming back. And my friend here, who spends a lot of time on this lake, says, there are many eagles on this lake. There are many eagles, and where we kind of call in the eagles, right? And so literally 5 or 10 minutes later, a bald eagle actually flew in and caught a fish, and then flew away, and then spent a bit of time with us here too. So I think this is an acknowledgement of the universe that we've picked a good spot for these compass plants to reorient our compass to the earth and care of the earth, and that this is a peace movement for the earth. And if you've seen any of my other little ceremonies, we have the mothers here, and that the work we do in fighting the nanotechnology and the AI and the predictive analytics and this Ahrimanic mechanical worldview that is coming, is that we are doing this for the children especially, and the not yet born in the natural world. And then this is my driftwood from the Schuylkill in Philadelphia, which is my eye of nature. That is sort of the antithesis of Michael Bloomberg's digital panopticon, the police state panopticon. And then this is one of the mothers I made, or maybe a crone or grandmother, the power of the sacred feminine, someone full of wise knowledge and warmth and power, is that I filled this puppet with actually materials from the garden where I work. And so it is a part of the gift to this lake and my friends who spend a lot of time in this lake. This puppet will be staying here and hopefully spreading this message of peace with every hike that they take on this lake. So that is the future for this. And I will just read this sentiment, this intention that was sent to me with dandelions from Alabama, I believe. Children's growth is guided by love. Thirst for power and control has no jurisdiction here. So this is our framing for this reset and an acknowledgement within a healing and the wrongs that were done to the original people of these lands by colonialism. And so I will also say, you guys know dandelions are a key part of this program. So we have today dandelions that I've picked from my stash at home. And these are dandelions that come from the United Kingdom. And so if we understand this is a colonizing project, where the next stage of colonization is colonization of life on planet Earth by AI. These come from England and actually from Edinburgh, Scotland. These little ones. And these were picked along with some fluffy seeds that I can show you in here a bit. And I put in some coneflower seeds. Someone gave me some coneflowers as well from Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh. And the interesting thing, and this was picked by a family and a child who gave some decorations here that came with the dandelions. And Arthur's Seat is an ancient volcano and, very significant. And Edinburgh, if you've seen one of my other talks, is a center of actually Scottish Rite Freemasonry, but also AI at the University of Edinburgh and robots. And the Cardano has Inputs Outputs Hong Kong has a blockchain lab at Edinburgh. So to have these dandelions from Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh, and also these other dandelions from my lovely friend Isabella in the south of England, is very significant. So I picked these dandelions with care, and I still have more dandelions, so I will be doing more ceremony. But these are the dandelions to acknowledge the harm of colonization that is now is upon all of us, really. So I will take a moment now. I guess the next step is to read about the weapons. Yesterday, at the conference, people were very generous with me, and they brought me some various gifts. And one of the gifts was this lovely dandelion. And the person who gave me this said, actually, this is a very tasty dandelion, and they recommended that I take it home and use it as an edible. But I think its calling was to be here today amongst the compass plants, because on the one hand, I didn't want to bury the weapons under the compass plants. I thought that didn't feel right, but if the dandelion can transmute this bad energy to rebalance the bad energy, the dandelion has the power to do that. So we're going to bury the weapons and plant the dandelion on top of it. And we have some various piney materials to symbolize the white pine, because we certainly are not going to uproot a white pine tree in this, and we don't want to appropriate their practice, but in a recognition of that important event, we have pine needles and pine cones that we'll put around the dandelion afterwards. And then we also have a little apple tree. So my trips are always really about building relationships and community, and people are so generous with me. And so the host where I'm staying, it's a wonderful family home, and a home with a lot of history and apple trees. And so this is one of the most beloved apple trees on their property, and so is in honor of first fruits. This one is not quite ripe, but we're going to leave the apple here as an offering in that way. So, and the other bit, so I have this letter, and this letter was sent to me by someone in Utah, and actually that has a lot of significance for me personally. And I'm not going to use this person's name just in terms of privacy, but I feel like in terms of addressing the issue of acknowledgement of past harm and healing, I think this is very appropriate, and I'm going to put this in with the bark about the weapons as we put the weapons underground. Dear Allison, or whom this makes its way to, these dandelions grew wild and free along the Ogden River in Utah. They made their way with me to a monument nearby in Harrisville that was recently placed there for reconciliation and to honor Chief Torokee of the Shoshone Indian tribe, who was shot by the first settler residing there more than 150 years ago. I hope that the spirit and energy of this action can go towards providing a light for our cause for this time and times to come. And that was sent to me in May of this year. So for this healing, this particular healing of Onondaga Lake, and in the light of the movement towards peace, I feel like this is a really important message to leave here on this lake, and with this intention, this collective intention. So I'm just going to read aloud the weapons, and these were ones that we came up with the last few days. So these may not be all, and certainly we do not want to go overboard with them. But human capital bonds, so we're bearing human or social impact, pay for success finance, that goes under here. Domination, and that's what I learned from Stephen Newcomb about this, Pagans in the Promised Land. Domination is a problem of any kind, even if you think you're well-intentioned. Blockchain, you guys know that I am the not blockchain person. Let us transmute the blockchain. No one belongs on blockchain. Graphene. This is one of the key things that we've been talking about lately that is connected to nanoelectronics and turning humans into robots through frequency weapons. So graphene, the first two-dimensional material. Authority figures. We feel like, especially in this moment, people need to be true to themselves, and we need to be very skeptical of those who would exert domination through authority over us. There's some swings in the background. Internet of Things. Those are the sensor networks of the panopticon. Confusion. Confusion is a weapon that is used against the people so that people don't understand what's really happening. Debt. Debt is a huge problem, using economics against people to keep them under control. Militarism. That's war. That is why what is coming now isn't so much about health, it's about a peace movement. It's a war on natural life that's coming. Conformity. I have met some of the most wonderful people doing this work, and we're almost all non-conformist in our own beautiful, creative ways. So conformity, I believe, is a weapon. The idea that we have to conform. Digital identity, the fact that they're going to aggregate all of the data and use it to control us and to feed us into the singularity to try to have a coup of God. Neurotech, these neurotechnology weapons that are dual use, that are shown to be taking care of people, but that are not. The EMFs and 5, 6Gs, 7Gs, all of the Gs, the electromagnetics that are being used to harm us as water-based beings. Fear. Fear is a biggie. That's a weapon. We are not afraid. Briar Rose, Tom Cowan talks about that. We are not afraid, and the hedge pulls back. Smart contracts, that's with blockchain. Now, those are to mediate our lives with our connection to the natural world through electrically engineered gateways that are not in our favor. Nanotechnology, which is not obeying our understood laws of physics, which is controlling our lives in unseen ways that are really forces for the profane, and artificial intelligence. So that's where we're at. So we've got all of the weapons. And I'm going to put the healing letter here from Utah on top of those. And then I've got my dandelion. So we're gonna loosen up the roots a little bit. Got this whole condition. Say it in here. Oops, apple not yet. Thank you. A little bit more soil. So we've got our dandelion. Tuck it in really nice and well. Yeah. Oh, we have like a little bit of compost here. So thank you, Jamie. Jamie's chickens and Chelsea's chickens are all for the compost. So now I will put a little ring of pine needle. So this will be an acknowledgement of the white pine of peace, the great law of peace. And we'll add some pine cones. A few bundles of green pine down here. And then we have the apple, the first piece. Acknowledge the Creator, that which is above us. So, okay. So I guess the next thing is we will sprinkle some dandelions, some of the UK dandelions. So my friend Mike is going to take these. We're going to sprinkle them along this little row here. And I've got the seeds from Scotland, and I have another friend shared some from Edinburgh. So we have Edinburgh, and then I think Maine. I think the coneflowers were from a friend Kate in Maine. And we're gonna, the co-creation, the co-creative force. There's some beautiful, I think this actually might be toasty here, I'm not sure. This is quite a lovely little ecosystem. And we did done. All right. So we've got that, and then, Tom Cowan yesterday talked a lot about water, our bodies, structured water. We know about water's life, the water memories, right? This water holds a lot of memories, and it's a lot of trauma. And we also know that our intentions on water make a difference in the cleansing. And so I asked on social media to have people send me intentions, and they did, which I wrote on this bark over the last few days. And then I have a lovely friend, Flo, who sent me, gave me, I'm not 100%, I think they might be hydrangea, and they're lavender. And my friend Julie, who wanted to be here but couldn't, she always talks about the violet flame of transformation and forgiveness. I am the violet flame of transformation and forgiveness. I am the violet flame of transformation and forgiveness. I am the violet flame of transformation and forgiveness. And so we've endowed the violets of the hydrangea onto these good intentions. And I'm going to read them out and put them in this basket, which actually I got years ago in the Adirondack, so it felt appropriate. And then we're going to carry them down to the lake. We're going to put them on the water with words of kindness and the Ho'oponopono prayer. So I'm just going to start, and forgive me if they're not perfect because I was writing on bark and sometimes I had to edit and make them a little bit shorter. But, okay, so. May the wisdom of careful negotiation rise again where I arrived on the planet. Envision symbiotic ways to clean and restore the water. And I think they mentioned something about mycelia on there actually. That didn't make it on the thing. May the cumulative generational wisdom of all elders who had gathered here in the past be rediscovered by humanity. May these join the life force and healing of the wildflowers, the songbirds, the geese families, the winter eagles, and life that is returning and blesses the lake. The bird songs, flowers, a huge turtle, goslings, people walking, biking, trees, bees, the dance of life, and it's sacred, and its story unfolds. And that's what we've seen here today. There was a wonderful gathering, a community gathering of people from the Vietnamese community here, and music and socializing, and it is this solidarity of people in nature together, and the wonders of being together in nature. May we live in harmony and respect with Mother Earth and change the minds, hearts, and actions of those who intend otherwise. Because we can, we're very powerful. We can do that if we're not afraid. May we be cleansed of negative thoughts and lower energies. May the wisdom of the elders become integrated into the preservation of our species and to fortify us against the current and future transhumanist agenda. Humans in harmony with nature. It's starting to rain, so the rain will help the plants will love that and help spread our intentions. We can shift this energy. May we all collectively and at once awake now to the truth. May we work to conserve the living systems of the soil, the water, and air which support life. And we did read before now both the Thanksgiving prayer as well as the Earth Treaty. And that is very much is that we need to do this work to preserve all of these living systems. That is our responsibility. May all human beings take their place, protecting, honoring, and preserving the land and other sacred earth beings. May we outgrow and out-co-create those who seek to destroy natural life. I feel like that's what we're doing today, as we're co-creating with nature. And the osprey and the eagle and the geese, the duck families, and beauty. The most revolutionary thing is to live in a beautiful way. We all do that. We help keep the world going. May all souls be free. All souls. Oh, and I forgot. There's some that have them on the back. We are here with grateful hearts. And again, we open with the prayer of gratitude to all of the beings that make our life possible. The lake gives me hope. The horrors we inflict, and that life will find a way. So it's hope. We do have powerful hope. All right, so we're gonna walk down to the shore here. Oh, actually, before we do that, I forgot one last thing. So again, I mentioned in some of my other talks that the garden where I'm at, actually, we have an example of the Franklinia alatamaha, which is the only native tea tree. And this now extinct in the wild. It's a shrubby tree that grew along riverbanks in South Georgia. And I have a friend who believes that maybe that this was a sacred tree for people of that region who are no longer, the original people who are no longer there, and that tree holds their story. And so, as we know, many of the founding fathers, including Ben Franklin, had Masonic associations. And so part of this, I created some tea today with the Franklinia, and I wish to transmute the harm of this past history and reclaim that plant for its sacred medicine for the original people. So I'm going to just put a little of this around the plants that we planted and say the Ho'oponopono prayer. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Because we have to acknowledge the harm for the healing to happen. So that's important. Okay, so let's walk down to the water. I'm going to speak good things to the water and put this in. And thank everybody for the intention sent. Love. Love. Peace. Friendship. Healing. Justice. Community. Beauty. Forgiveness. Abundance. Compassion. Friendship. Spirit. Safety. Ancestors. Connection. Nurturing. Creativity. Prayer for an abundant and loving future. I am the violet flame of transformation and forgiveness. I am the violet flame of transformation and forgiveness. I am the violet flame of transformation and forgiveness. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Thank you. I love you. So I think that concludes our gift from that restores an imbalance that was done hundreds of years ago, where people came and took things that were not theirs to take. And I hope that these lands will receive the gift in the spirit of the collective, in which it is meant to help restore things in balance and to transmute the trauma. And so that we can move forward in these times and rebuild something better together. Thank you so much for your time and attention, everyone, and for everyone who contributed and sent and was part of the ceremony. All right, bye-bye.